I'll give you more space.
Okay, we ready? (6:33). Meeting is called to order. Roll call. Rick Surrette, present. David Champy, excused. Rob Collins.
Here.
Ed Comeau.
Present.
Jim Freeman, absent. Geary Ciccarone, absent. Rich Sacker.
Here.
Alternates Dianne Smith.
Here.
Will you sit on the planning board tonight, Diane?
Yes.
Thank you.
She comes sit at the table.
Yeah, get a comfortable seat.
I'm good. Thank you.
Public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, my wife spoke with Gary a few minutes ago and he wasn't gonna make it. He was aware of the meeting, but he was unable to make it, so.
Thank you. Announcements, correspondence, mail. We've got a bunch. FEMA, watershed. Middleton, Stratford County, New Hampshire, community number 330222. This is a note to the selectmen. Telling the selectmen that the FEMA upcoming risk management map and assessment and planning discovery meeting for the Winnipesaukee watershed in east central New Hampshire will be coming up on Tuesday, September 27th, 10:30 a.m. Guilford Town Hall, 47 Cherry Valley Road, Guilford, New Hampshire. RSVP to Scott Olson. Community leaders, emergency managers, GIS specialists, local planners to the discovery meeting are invited. This will be in the room if anybody's interested. Land Tech, per our request after the adjustment to the proposed lot line adjustments, zip tie. The final plan with revision 3 recorded at CCRD at Plan Book 236, page 86, has been completed. That is here for review. Third, White Mountain Survey and Engineering, Inc. The land purchase by the town, prepared for Marcia Hunter, Lightfoot Road, Brookfield, New Hampshire. According to Rich Zacher, we own it now, and these are the maps. Okay, review and possible approval of the August 18th, 2016 minutes. Does everybody have a copy?
I'm good. Thank you.
Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Come on in. We're going over the Thursday, August 18th minutes right now. Just be a couple minutes.
Everybody good? I'd like to make a motion to accept the Thursday, August 18th, 2016 minutes as provided.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes accepted. You probably noticed George isn't here today. He's ill. Phil, did you have a comment tonight?
No, I was
Just coming in and check it out? Okay, because I would have backed this up for you if you did. But we'll just carry on, new business. Before we get into that, I just wanted to get on record, the budget is due. We got a letter from the administrative assistant. So I want to get that put into the new business for October to compile our budget for 2017. Proposed changes to Article 4, 1A and B of the zoning ordinance. Does everyone have a copy of that? This one.
Thank you.
That's next.
Thank you.
So what I did is cut and pasted right out of the existing zoning, and I highlighted the changes that we talked about last month on the bottom line.
Okay.
And the only thing that I questioned myself about when I was editing it was whether we're being too specific when we say the septic system or well. Is there something else that we're just not considering that we should consider? Because that's very specific, septic system or well.
Well, that was what we used the last time.
That's what we used the last time, that's right. And I tried to brainstorm what else should we be sensitive to.
Well, they're potentially accessory buildings, right?
Could be.
So you could have a barn or a shed or an outdoor wood boiler. I guess, I don't know if that's an accessory building or not, but it's something else that could be sitting there.
Could be. Is it something we want to consider, or are we just worried about the well and the septic system? That's a good point, because we don't have anything outside wood burners, wood boilers. I guess the state does.
It's just an appliance.
Yeah, but to move it is it's got underground piping and electric and,
Is it considered a permanent structure?
It's an appliance.
well, so is a well.
It's like a fire pit.
That's the joke.
You're in the mood today.
Barbecue.
I mean, if I understand correctly, this part of this section of the zoning is to make it so that we avoid, the intent of it was to allow somebody to tweak how they're using a non-conforming lot in
Yes.
such a way that they're not forced to destroy and rebuild significant infrastructure to support a residence.
That's right.
Okay,
And so,
boiler. Well,
cost me thousands of dollars to have mine installed, so.
okay, well, good point. I don't have one, so I wouldn't know. But you do. Well, I'm just asking, what about roads or driveways? Is that a problem?
Well, let's go back to what we're saying here. We're saying that if you want to build something on your lot, before we make these proposed changes, there were certain things the town said would provide a hardship, so you don't have to move them. The well and the septic system. So now if we put outside boiler on there, we're gonna say that's also a consideration. Well, no, let me start over here. So we took those constraints out of this and said, we're only worried about the well and the septic system of your abutter. We're not considering the well or your septic system, because based upon the zoning board's judgment, you may or may not have to move that. So, go back to the boiler again. If it's on your neighbor's lot, should that have a bearing on the construction on your lot?
I don't think it should, because if it's on the neighbor's lot, it would meet his setbacks. Well, it would be approved to be where it is.
So I would agree with that. The only issue is smoke. And when you design the boiler and install it, you have to, I mean, I don't know if it's building codes, but the guidelines are you want your chimney to be tall enough that it's 2 feet above the peak of any residence within some distance, I don't know, or something like that, right? So there are issues. Would we have a situation where somebody moved their house and then started complaining because the smoke was going into from their neighbor who didn't change anything? The smoke is now going into their house. Are we gonna have a problem with that? I mean, you as a selectman will have to, they'll be calling you, right? So, I don't think it would hurt the neighbor's boiler, but it might cause complaints about it. I don't know. My guess is it's not an issue, and my guess would be septic's not an issue as well. Can I do something on my property that interferes with my neighbor's septic system?
I don't think so.
You could change the configuration of your land so that it changes the groundwater, or, you know, maybe.
Runoff.
Yeah, right.
Well, runoff, I think, is already probably covered by, I don't think you can cause runoff onto your neighbor's property.
But if they put in, so all of those, the septic and the well issues, aren't those state controlled? Aren't there state guidelines for the installation and the
Installation,
setbacks associated with those? I don't know.
There are.
Yes.
But we're talking about a neighbor's septic system who's not changing anything. They're not gonna be going to the state. Somebody's gonna be doing grading or putting a house potentially within, close enough to somebody's well that they could potentially contaminate it, or.
Well, maybe it should be simplified then, to just simply say, instead of, so if I may ask a question, the only words that are changed in the zoning are, this part of the zoning is what you've highlighted or put in bold. Nothing in A, just in B.
That's right.
Okay. So it looks like the way that I understand the way that it reads now in this version is that the only reference to the lot for which the variance or the non-conforming use is requested is the egress and ingress
Yes.
of the lot.
Yep.
So, would it be too general to say, or negatively impact an abutting parcel or an abutting lot? And be just not define the other activities?
That opens a huge can of worms, though, because if I'm the neighbor, I may feel like I'm negatively affected by the fact that it went from a 200 square foot camp to a 4,000 square foot, 2-story building.
3-story.
Right. Right. I mean, so I would say, I'm negatively impacted by that, because.
That's a judgment call.
Yeah, and then the selectmen are going to get stuck with trying to make a call, and the property owners are going to be stuck with potentially arbitrary calls by the selectmen.
That's true too.
Right, where you could get a different answer depending on who gets elected or not. Which, I don't know, if we can avoid that, I think we'd be better off. People will be, at least know where they stand. Seems to me that the big issue is the well.
And septic system. Well, you mean on the adjacent property?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how you could really screw somebody up. But of course, the adjacent property, the well should have been placed originally such that it was,
That's correct.
Set-
75 feet.
so it itself was set back far enough to avoid this problem. Now, on these lots, it didn't happen, or it may not have been possible, right? But
That's right. I mean, you put the well in 25 years ago, I'm thinking Cedar Park. You got about half-acre lots, and you put a well in, it's not 75 feet today, or it wasn't 75 feet 20 years ago, and now you're gonna make it worse.
The well has to be 75 feet from the,
Leach fields.
oh, I thought you, okay, I thought you meant the boundary.
No,
Setback.
leach, you draw the circle across other people's property.
But so we would allow somebody to create a new well that wasn't set back 75 feet? From the
That's, we don't, that's a
No,
state
no.
law.
It's not the boundary. It's the septic system, any septic system. You can be right on the lot line, but you gotta be 75 feet away from septic systems. So if you do that, you can hose your neighbor, right? You go in first, and the state tries to avoid that, because if you place your well early,
Within the setback.
you got a comment coming from the
Are you sure of that? Don't you
75
have
feet.
water release from your neighbor's property to do that?
Pardon me?
Are you sure about that?
You have to be 75 feet from septic systems.
Right, but you can't have your protective wall radius on a neighboring property without a wall release from the neighbor.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what, you couldn't
Well,
put it
they've
in.
given up their right then if they allow that.
That's right.
There's already something in place that protects them from that happening.
If,
It seems, I mean, I'm not knowledgeable in this part of the law, but it seems like that would essentially creating an easement. I mean, it would be weird to have that kind of restriction on the use of your land without there being an easement.
when you go to put a well in, you want to be 75 feet away from all the leach fields. If you're not, I don't know what action is taken actually.
You can do it on your own property too. You can have your leach field within 75 feet of your own well.
If you say so, I don't know.
I did land surveying for 6 years. I'm kind of familiar with it.
Okay.
That's what the new regulations that they have now?
Well, I haven't done it for a few years, but that's what it used to be. I'm sure it hasn't gotten less restrictive. But you can't have, 98% sure you can't have your protective wall radius on an abutting property without that abutting property owner releasing you. You can't do that because you are essentially putting an easement on another piece of property.
Exactly.
I understand, but what if the well exists? So what we're working with is you've got a non-conforming lot, and in this town, it's a small lot.
Right.
And now somebody comes in and wants to make a modification to their structure.
Okay.
And we hit in our zoning some waivers that we would say, for example, if you're going to impact your septic system or your well, then we'll give you relief with respect to setbacks, other setbacks. All right, so here you get a small lot, you got a septic system or a well, and because you have a septic system and a well, we'll let you build close to the lot. That's the way our zoning is written today. Now, you could move your septic tank and leach field.
So it's just with regard to the structure itself.
On a non-conforming lot, small lot.
Right.
And we've got some down in Cedar Park, we have some on the lake. The old lots are small. So you come in for a building permit and you get a waiver because you don't want to move because we say you don't have to move your leach field. But you could build a $500,000 house, and for the sake of $1,000 tank, you're right on the property line. That's what our zoning used to say.
Or up close to the lake.
Or up close to the lake. You get waivers on your setbacks because you're not gonna move your well or septic, your well or septic tank. That's what our zoning says.
So you get the waiver, you build a new structure, and then you're gonna relocate your well and septic anyway.
I see. So you have to get a door, then you... There's always a way around it.
So the issue is that part of the zone, you can grab a copy if you want to read that part of the, I mean, basically, we're trying to close the loophole. We're looking at language that would close the loophole. That same part of the zoning also talks about your neighbor's septic and well, which is why we're talking about that.
How about hardships won't be considered on non-conforming lots?
Give it to the ZBA. See, the ZBA makes that call. Maybe it is, a legitimate hardship and
How could the ZBA make a hardship call if there's no hardship in the,
well, if you say there's no hardships, what does that mean, I guess?
you stay compliant with your wells, your septics and everything else like normal zoning? We're allowing hardship.
I think the problem was, with the loophole, was that they didn't have to show hardship, they just had to show the septic existed. Right? Now, if we make the change, so our zoning doesn't say that that the septic can't be, the ZBA can't force you to move your septic. If we make it so that the ZBA can make that judgment call, then I think that's what you're trying to do, right?
Sure.
So the ZBA could still say that, oh, in this case, it would be a hardship for you to have to move your septic or your well. So we are gonna let you stay closer to the lake or closer to the property line. But they should be able to ask the question of, are you planning to rip out the septic anyway? And put in one that's 3 times the size, because you're gonna have go from a shack to a, McMansion? And if the answer is, yeah, we're gonna rip that out anyway, then clearly that, they can't use the fact that the septic is there as a hardship, whereas right now, ZBA can't even ask the question.
If this went through the planning board with the full plans, or beyond the code enforcement officer issuing a building permit, the ZBA would have got this case with all this information in front of them.
It doesn't come to us. And the building inspector, the code, to get a building permit, basically he'll say it's a non-conforming lot. What you're trying to do isn't allowed, so you have to go to the ZBA to get a variance, right?
So where could you put in the plans before the ZBA?
I think the
So-
ZBA, you'd go to the ZBA with your plan and say, hey, this is my project. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is my project. This is what I want to do. Will you let me?
I want to go back as far as I can, but I got a septic system. I can't go back any further, doctor. My septic system's there. Oh, yes, it says right here, we can't make you move your septic system. It's granted.
Therein lies the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So if we take that out,
Take that out.
then they have to make the case to the ZBA that it would be a hardship to have to move my septic.
And now they're looking at a plan that says it's not a hardship, right? Because now you got a plan in front of you that says, whoa.
Right.
And then so we strike that, and the ZBA would make the call.
Well, by state regulations, that septic is not gonna be approved anyway.
Well, it could be an approved septic. I mean, that's not,
Or, it could be.
could it be approved? I mean, if you really want to be corrupt about it, you put the septic system in first. And if you really want to play games with the town, put the septic system in first and say, here's what I can do, my septic system's in.
So I'd have less of a problem with that.
You would.
Yep.
Well, that's what I was trying to deal with.
So come up with the language to make septic systems and wells not hardship.
Not hard.
Well, I think this just crossing out those couple words does it, right? Just making it so that our zoning doesn't say that you can't do it. Right? I mean, that was your intent, right?
Yeah, it used to say the septic system and well of the lot or the lot of the abutter. Of the lot or the lot of the abutter.
Okay.
So now we're saying you only have to worry about your abutter. We don't care about your lot, we care about your abutter's
We
lot.
don't have to change that. So what's the word to address the lot septic system in well? This isn't flowing.
Can I suggest a wordsmithing that
Yes,
might
sure.
clarify?
That's what I'm looking for.
So instead of just crossing out some of these words and adding one, perhaps it would be clearer if after jeopardize the ingress and egress of the lot, comma, or the septic system and well of any abutting lot.
That's excellent.
What about their own lot?
That's what clarifies it, because you're saying or the septic system and well of any abutting lot. You're silent about the impact.
Okay, egress of the lot, the septic system, comma, well.
No,
Just
after
or.
comma, or, insert the word or, the septic system and, leave and, well of any abutting lot. Does that say what
That's
you want it to
perfect,
say?
Yeah, that's the thrust of it.
And provides that break, that clearer break, I think, by inserting the word or.
It doesn't address the lots well.
Correct, and that's what Rich was getting at, by being silent, correct me if I'm wrong, by being silent about the subject lots, well and septic, it gives the ZBA the opportunity to consider that in the context of the whole project. Is that correct?
That's right.
Mhm.
I don't have a pen, thank you, so we have to. Or the septic system and. Okay, can I have this?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make that change. We can review it again next month. Is that what we have to do?
Sure.
Thank you, Diane.
Will you drop that, your change off for George
Yep.
to,
Yep, sure will.
review of old business, review of volunteer invitation letter. Third paragraph, last sentence. We do without the dramatics.
I kind of liked it. No, I think we could tone that down a little bit. I still think we should say something about free pizza or something. Pizza and beer, get people here.
I don't want it. Can we name a couple of shattered communities?
So, first sentence, RSA 672 does deal with, it's sort of general provisions related to land use. 673 is actually talks about what the planning board does. So I'm not sure, the first sentence, I'm not sure whether that should, whether, I'm sure that the word authorized means something specific. I'm just not sure whether it means 672 or 673.
What do they talk about in the planning board, 73?
Well, 672:11 talks about, well, 672 as a whole talks about the various, it talks about planning and zoning in general. It has a bunch of definitions for like a butter and local land use board, local legislative body, mayor, municipality. Defines the planning board, but it's only like one sentence on the planning board, which refers to 673. 673 is titled Local Land Use Boards. Planning board is one of them, and it has a couple pages on planning board.
Perhaps that should be the RSA we use.
Seems to have more meat to it. So, yeah, so maybe change 672 to 673.
Okay.
Also in that first sentence, I would suggest changing has operated to operates. The planning board operates as a rather than the local land use board. There are several local land use boards. So I would say, have it read, the planning board operates as a local land use board authorized under New Hampshire RSA 673.
Good. Rest of the paragraph's okay.
I don't know what the rule is. I bet Diane does though. In the second sentence, the comma feels, the wording around the comma just seems weird to me, but it may very well be correct.
I think you can lose the comma.
That's sort of what I thought too, but, so no comma. So in the second sentence, remove the comma after town.
Yeah, I agree.
And the third sentence says that we're charged with developing and maintaining the zoning ordinance, building code, and master plan. I know we do more than that, though. I'm not sure. I mean, because
We developed a building code?
our zoning, the zoning adopts a building code, I think. There's a isn't there?
Yeah, I think we've adopted the state's building code, but we could have our own, but we've elected to go with the state's.
Okay.
Is that in the zoning that we did that? Or do we have a separate document that's building code?
I don't know.
I don't remember seeing it in the zoning.
Anyway, I was just looking in 673 to see if there's a concise list of what we're supposed to do.
I don't recall ever addressing building codes.
I know that I don't remember if it was as built as the planning board, but I know that we have, at some point since I've been in town, we did update which building code
Yes.
we were using. I just don't remember.
Where we did that.
Yeah, it seems like it was a warrant article, but I'm not sure if it was from the planning board or from the selectmen. But
Perhaps instead of saying is charged with, in that sentence, the planning board develops and maintains
I love it.
zoning, the town's zoning ordinances, master plan, you know, we could list subdivisions, you know, whatever. So it's, I guess we need to think about how much we want to list. I was trying to shorten it and be a little more generic in terms of what the responsibilities of the planning board are in that, because that's what I think it's trying to expand upon the second sentence. maybe activities include, maybe that's an easier way to say it. Activities include monitoring, developing, maintaining the zoning ordinance and master plan. And just, you don't have to list everything. Those are the key items that we deal with, aren't they?
Yes.
The zoning ordinances, so then,
This is supposed to be a friendly invitation.
Right,
This
so
isn't
that-
supposed to be a technical document.
Yeah.
So let's call it back to just be an invitation to sit with the planning board, possibly become an alternate.
Yeah, 674:1 has, it's titled Duties of the Planning Board, so, and it goes on for a page. So I think that we don't want to be technically correct in the sentence, I think, because there's just a lot that we can do, but I like what Diane said.
Did you want to change that to 674-1?
No.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean,
So then
670,
they can read it and they can, if they wanted to go in and look into it.
no, this isn't a formal document. I mean, this is it's an invitation, so,
That's all it is. You learn that when you get here.
so maybe the sentence should
Yeah, can you
start
repeat?
with among, well, I forgot now what I said. Planning board's activities include developing and maintaining the zoning, get rid of building code, and zoning ordinances and building code. Sorry, and master plans, not building code, I just crossed it out.
So you have the last sentence of the first paragraph as the planning board develops and maintains the zoning ordinance and master plan.
Well, I've made it possessive. The planning board's activities include developing and maintaining the zoning ordinance and master plan. And by saying you include those things, you're not excluding other things.
Right, that's good.
I think it seems like a lot of, we also deal with applications.
Yeah, we do.
So I'm not sure how to say that nicely, but
So
We're
let's
not
not say
gonna make a
anything
list
at
of
all.
everything.
No, let's not scare them away.
We're not gonna make a list of everything we do.
I understand, but there are 10 different applications we deal with or something, right? So if we could just, I mean, that's the other big activity we have is just dealing with people who want to change what they're doing.
I'll fill out applications. The second paragraph, the first sentence, I'd like to see that leave. And start with, please consider attending the planning board meetings.
Mr. Chairman, why can't we make it very simple like that? Just invite them just to come and then we can tell them, hey, this is what we do, this is what we're, why are we
That's-
making a book? I don't understand.
I'd like to see that, and
Something simple. Because if we put all this, it's gonna look like it's like a resume, we're, you know, looking for all kinds of background and,
So are you suggesting that we,
blow it up.
well, are you okay with the first paragraph as?
oh, yeah, yeah.
So then you're
As a
suggesting,
lead-in, as a lead-in.
so then are you suggesting that we, from the rest of it, we just keep the second sentence of the second paragraph, nuke the rest of the second
Yes.
paragraph and the whole third paragraph?
Read the third one again.
Well,
Yeah,
change the
I-
first sentence in the last
I
paragraph.
blew up the last sentence, but we don't need the first one either.
Those who are willing to sacrifice time and expend energy will be rewarded with the opportunity
I
to
won't
share their
sign that.
talents and insights.
Can we just
I mean-
change it to donate
I won't-
their
I won't
time
sign
and
that.
energy?
Donate, that requires they're getting,
Well,
Maybe.
they're
that's the-
donating their time and energy, that's what we're all
Maybe
doing
we can
here.
get them to bring something, like a dish.
Oh, food?
Of food. I'm sorry.
I think Rick's suggestion of please consider planning, attending and review with a view toward participating is fine. That's it.
Yeah.
that's-
That's it.
Yeah.
Diane, will you read your first paragraph, and I'll read the second one?
I have from my notes, the planning board operates as a local land use board authorized under New Hampshire RSA 673. The board works on behalf of the residents to promote the orderly development of the town with regard to land use. The planning board's activities include developing and maintaining the zoning ordinance and master plan.
Can we get rid of with regard to land use? Just get rid of that phrase?
Sure,
Just leave it as promote the orderly development of the town?
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Good.
And then the second paragraph, which I'm going to suggest become the first paragraph, please consider attending planning board meetings with a view towards participating as an alternate member. Upon gaining an understanding of the ordinances, you may have in time consider the prospect of running as an elected planning board official.
Just nitpicking on the last sentence.
Yeah, sorry.
You don't have to know anything to run for anything,
Right,
unfortunately, but
yeah, and that's passive. So after the second sentence, we don't even need a whole piece of paper for this. You may in time consider the prospect of running as an elected planning board official. You may in time consider
or how about if we
running
just
for the
add it, so as part of the first sentence, with a view toward participating, or however we change that, so participate as an alternate member, or perhaps to run as an elected planning board member.
Okay,
I don't even know if we need that.
I don't know if we need, I mean, we just need somebody to show up. Thank you. Thank you for showing up.
My 2 cents on it is that if somebody's interested,
Yeah.
this isn't gonna matter to them really.
Mhm.
They're gonna come or they're not.
There are, I've
You're right.
been
Right.
told that there are people who think that the people who serve on boards are an exclusive club that don't welcome other people. And I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's heard that, but
But those are probably also people that don't have any, they're not involved enough to be able to contribute productively either, so,
nobody comes here.
really.
Present company accepted.
And one fellow
Is
came
it a
back.
5 or 7 member board?
It's a 6-member board with,
6 member.
how many alternates?
well, with six elected members with
Yes.
one of the selectmen is the seventh.
Is it even member?
No, well, the selectmen's rep is a voting member,
Yeah, okay. So it's 7.
so 7.
2 alternates.
I think we can have more than that,
A
but
lot more.
we've only got one right now, and we've got a couple members who
Is it 5 or 7?
I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
We will never have to find out how many we can have.
Well, having alternates sit in the room, the purpose, as you probably already know, is if somebody's absent, someone's in the room that knows what's going on, and you can have continuity.
Just keep in mind, there are people that watch who are interested. So when people come here and put an application in, they will watch. They'll go home and watch to see what happens weeks after, to see if, we've continued
There's no applications, is there?
when there's applications.
Oh,
I'm
I
just
thought you
telling
got an application to become an alternate.
Don't confuse people. No application, no blood test, no nothing.
But I think that we were trying to see if we could find a way to encourage people to maybe come out of the woodwork and, at least show up.
That's it.
Very least, listen and added bonus, participate.
Well, as chairman, you should tell the people that do watch in this town that they should come.
I just did it. We put it in the town report every year. To know about it.
I think did we actually ask in town meeting?
I don't remember doing
We should do that. Just ask, just walk around town and ask.
You know, the other sad thing is you go to the town meeting, you go to the selectmen meeting, it's the same people all the time. They're already busy going to selectmen meetings.
But that the last line, in closing, history will record your effort.
I've already got it struck.
Gotta leave that
Ed
in
will
there.
record your effort.
What?
Ed will record.
Now, is this gonna go on the website, or is this going, where is this gonna go?
We're gonna put on the town page as a bulletin and on the Facebook then.
Website and Facebook, right?
Yeah. You can put it in, we won't put it on the bulletin boards too, but Facebook and the webpage.
And talk to your neighbors. Imagine that.
Let's see what comes up next slide. Distributed amended rules and procedure.
I didn't see new rules of procedure in here, so George must have
I didn't see that either.
prepared that.
It says,
That's item D.
okay, so amended rules and procedure next month. Item C, ADU discussion next month, or are you prepared, Diane, or do you want to wait for David?
Well, there's no handouts either.
This is related for the public for Senate Bill 146.
Correct.
Review compiling of changes to the New Hampshire Planning and Land Use Regulation Book.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, before we leave the ADU discussion, just, Diane, do you anticipate that we will need to change our zoning to
Yes.
comply with the new state laws?
Some changes will be necessary. David and I met on the 29th of August here in the building and went over the table of changes that we had collectively reviewed and suggested. It's extensive not because there's an awful lot of required changes, but because it gives an opportunity to clean it up too and perhaps reorganize it if there's going to be a change. And per your suggestion, Rob, cited all of it's a table with 3 columns, original language, suggested language, and then the third column is commentary and reference to whatever the statute will be. The legislation will not be effective until June 1st of next year. So if we're going to make the changes, it behooves us to do it so that we can present it to town meeting.
Any chance the new House repeals this?
No, I doubt that. So to recap, the legislature passed this. Now the towns have to make it a warrant article, and the town still has to vote on changing the actual ordinance.
Each of the towns may have in their zoning ordinance restrictions on ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
the state law that you guys passed restricts what the town can restrict. So towns that have overly restrictive zoning, which I think I heard the answer was that that includes us. Our zoning is overly restrictive compared, with respect to the new state law that'll be in effect next June. We could leave our zoning the way it is, and basically if somebody sued us because they weren't allowed to do an ADU that was allowed by state law but not allowed by our zoning, then basically, our zone, for that project, our zoning would probably get thrown out by the judge. And it would just fall back to whatever the state says, which may not be what we want.
My question revolves around, if we change it, does the town have to vote on those changes?
Yes, it's the zoning.
Okay,
So
it's-
yes, so it would be on the ballot in March.
Okay, that's all I wanted to just
Yeah.
ask to see. So we're gonna have to come up with with a warrant article that explains those changes and present that.
Yes.
We'll have that task,
That is on the ballot,
yes.
not at the meeting, on the voting that day, the zoning change. So we'll have a public hearing and we'll explain it there.
When does the change come into effect?
Is it June?
June 1st. We could adopt this, the zoning, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that if the zoning gets changed at town, or on election day in March, then it becomes effective immediately. You don't have to wait until it's the state law that becomes in effect.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
But if we change our zoning in March, we're going through the effort of changing zoning that we don't have to change.
Until June.
Right, and I don't know that you'd want to call a special town meeting just to do that between March and June.
We don't have to call a special town meeting. We could change our zoning to comply with the state after June and have it for a warrant article in 2018.
We could, and the only issue would be that during those 9 months between June and March of 18, we'd be in a situation where somebody that by state law the project that by state law somebody could do, our zoning wouldn't allow them to.
Is it protocol to change our zoning before anything happens at the state level that's gonna make us do it? We don't know until June anything can happen.
A few years ago, there was the affordable housing thing where they basically forced the state did the same sort of thing. They made it so that towns towns had to allow workforce housing in at least 50% of the residential areas in the town, and also have to allow multifamily housing somewhere in town. And that went into effect, I think, pretty much right away, certainly before we had a chance to react and change our zoning. We did change it the next March to comply with state law. So it would certainly not be unheard of that we or other towns hadn't been able to change zoning to comply with changes in state law before those state laws went into effect. But
However, in this case, we know the law will take effect in June because it's been passed,
Correct.
so it will take place in June.
and quite frankly, this time they gave us plenty of time to deal with it.
Right.
Right, we should, I think we should get them to present their proposed changes, and just like Rich did, and we can discuss them, and
It won't be a big deal to do the warrant article. Can the warrant article come in effect in June? Or does it have to come effect immediately upon voting?
yes, as soon as we vote on it, it's in effect. I believe. I've never seen anything in any zoning ordinance where a provision took effect at some point in the future, but
Can you work that into the warrant article?
you can try, but why bother?
You're right, it's only what, 3 months?
Yeah. And I think that what you guys did is not unreasonable. The restrictions you guys are putting, saying that we can't restrict it beyond a certain point, those are not crazy things. Like the workforce housing thing, a lot of people thought that was kind of crazy.
But
That was before it.
that's when I got involved in the planning board.
Now, during the hearing, do we have to vote to say we approve it or not, like we usually do?
Yes.
Just make sure we get
We do that before the hearing.
Yeah.
Or after the hearing, I guess.
Well, yeah, we vote to bring it to a public hearing, but based on the public input, we may decide that we will not put it on the warrant, as a warrant article on the ballot.
If it's the board's intention to get this on a warrant article this year for March, we gotta get going on it, so we're not, what's the cutoff date, in December?
I think it's early in February. All the hearings have to be done.
Well,
When does the warrant article have to go on?
It's gotta be February. We go to press the first week in February.
remember last year, I mean, I know it's only one warrant article, remember last year, 15 changes? We were here almost every night. We want to do that again.
So we should start now, start soon.
Should have started 3 months ago. Well,
I did.
I know, I know. But we should have started, like, as a board, working on it, right? So I think that as long as, if you guys, like,
Okay.
have it organized and ready to go, basically, and we can, just like what Rich did, right? And we can just tweak little bits of it, and we're ready to go, then,
I was a little surprised that it didn't come with the notice of the meeting, because I know that David passed it on, and with the expectation it was going to be distributed in advance of the meeting.
Sometimes things don't show up,
Yeah.
so.
Didn't happen.
George has been sick this week. But,
in terms of schedule, realistically, if we have a good draft of something by the end of November, we can get it done without stressing, without having a lot of extra meetings. But that means we probably need to have seen it a couple times before, the November
so
meeting.
it'd be good to take a swag at it in October.
Question,
Yes.
do we know of a town that has basically the same ordinance we have? And is there a template to have it changed? Like instead of, reinventing the wheel?
I don't think that our ADU part of our ordinance was like boilerplate that we got from
It wasn't,
somewhere.
okay.
I don't think so. I think it was passed, Janet, I think, was chairman when
For me, a while ago.
before you were sitting on the board. Yeah,
It doesn't take up a lot of
Maybe
space, it's
6
not a
feet.
big deal.
maybe 6 years ago. 6 or 7 years ago, the ADU stuff was rewritten or written.
All we're basically doing is changing from attached to detached is allowed, correct?
No, and actually, it's rather curious that we found in our review where the ADU language in the zoning ordinance body very clearly says it's within a single-family dwelling. Guess what? The definition says it can be detached as well. That's the only reference in the entire zoning ordinance that says it can be detached, yet everything else in the body of the zoning ordinance says it can only be within a single family.
Is that
So
our zoning ordinance or the state?
Within a single
ours,
family
ours,
dwelling?
right here.
And then it goes ahead and says it can be detached?
Well,
In the definition.
well, the definition
Then we're
is just
done.
defining the word, and then the words of the zoning ordinance define what our regulations are around that definition.
Oh, okay, all right.
Right, like we talked about, I think it was right of way, where right of way, the generic term right of way can mean a road or a stream or a lake or whatever, right? And
That makes it very confusing for the layperson
Yeah.
reading.
Yes, the way I read our zoning, we require only attached. It has to be inside the main building. Several years ago, there was a proposal to allow detached. Do you remember that? That the big issue was that people were afraid that it was going to double the population of the town, and it was all going to be kids, and our taxes were going to go through the roof, and it did not pass to allow detached.
And the state's not requiring that. It only requires that accessory dwelling units attached to a single-family dwelling be required, or must be allowed, and it leaves it up to the community to decide whether or not detached accessory dwelling units will be permitted. So it's worth a discussion.
What are we talking about? That's exactly what our zoning ordinance says.
That it's for, right, and we can talk about the details
Okay.
next time, and once you have an opportunity to look over the document, I think it'll be a little,
I thought the state was mandating detached accessory dwellings be
no,
okay.
no, absolutely not.
And we wanted to know if detached accessory dwellings count towards workforce housing.
Even the attached ones count toward workforce housing.
Well, they do and they don't. I had talked to the gentleman who was very involved in developing the workforce housing, involved in that process. And it really boils down to whether or not it deals with the rental of whether or not the cost or I'm not gonna get this right off the top of my head, but it boils down to what the rental cost is for the accessory dwelling unit, and if it meets the standard for workforce housing, and there's references to that. So it's not entirely clear, you just can't broad brush say, yes, this counts towards workforce housing.
Can the property owner be absent now?
No, the property owner must be in one of the two units.
Yeah, you know,
According to the state or according to our zoning?
According to the state.
So should we ask Dianne and/or Dave to mail that to us, email us? If we got hung up with George, you can email it to us, can't you?
I'm happy to do that. if
Yeah,
you'd like.
that would be great. That way we'll get a look at it before it shows up on Old Business again in October.
Okay.
It'll help the discussion go quicker.
are we also gonna come up with a blurb that explains this to the layperson?
We have to by the time we're done. 'Cause
Yeah.
something has to go on the
I would
ballot.
wait until we have a product before we take a stab at that.
And
And I think we had, maybe the attorney helped us write those last time, right? The
somewhat.
15.
That was 2 years ago. Yes.
Just seems just like yesterday.
No, it was 2 years ago.
Well, the workforce housing calculation is interesting. And I think that's something the public has to understand, that if there is a calculation that can be made, that if you have an accessory dwelling, it can go towards our workforce housing quota.
Well, but the town has already, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but I think that the town is in, quote, compliance, for lack of a better word, by having allowed the opportunity.
We
For
are
workforce
in compliance, but if we hadn't been under the threat of having our zoning thrown out, that those changes would not have passed. I'd be willing to bet that if we could say with a straight face that we believed that through our current inventory and our ADUs and whatever else, that we felt comfortable that we met our fair share, which is what the language is in the law, that without allowing higher density of development, I'd be willing to bet that you'd get 90% of the people that voted to vote for pulling that stuff out of our zoning, pulling the overlay district out. I think that would be very popular.
If you can explain that and prove that that's how it works.
Yes, if we believed that we were meeting the state laws regarding workforce housing through other means.
But it's kind of a non-issue, is it not? I mean, there's not a
Oh,
lot.
it's a huge issue. Did you watch Wolfboro this past couple of years? What was the name of that development? They had a workforce housing development that was just, huge stink for a couple of years.
Okay.
Nobody wanted it.
Isn't it?
It's in. It went through.
mean, that's just information that the public should have, rather than not have.
With the workforce housing, some developer can just come in and say, I wanna put a whole bunch of houses on half-acre lots. And that's what our zoning says they can do. And it's a whole bunch of houses, half the town. Yeah, I mean, but it's like, a development with half-acre lots would look very different than the rest of Brookfield.
Look like Cedar Park.
Yeah, but it could be huge,
Does that count, Cedar Park?
potentially.
Question from the public.
I thought it was limited to 8 acres.
We made some changes 2 years ago that were required by the lawyer, or the lawyer said we were in violation. I don't remember exactly what we changed it to, but somebody could come in, buy a 200-acre parcel, subdivide it to 8 acres, and do a project in each one.
It's always the way, like I said before. it's always
Right,
the way
there's,
around.
I mean, so, I mean,
Then it's not worth it, because then you put that in place, and then you haven't gained anything by being so restrictive, though, because someone's always gonna find a way around, or a lawyer, or the state's gonna come down on you and say, you gotta do this, you're not complying.
yep.
Okay,
So you thought that the state was requiring us to allow detached ADUs.
Yeah.
Did you think that was a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a bad idea.
What's that?
Because buildings would be constructed and then laws could come along to change owners, present and non-present. It just gives up, once the structure's in place, it gives opportunity to have other things kick their way over.
Are we asking for everybody's opinion?
I'd like to hear that. Because I think that would be an easy zoning change to propose if we thought that was something that would be good for the owner, for the town.
I look at it this way, if I had somebody that I want, that I was in my family or not in my family, that I wanted to have them live next door to help out or whatever, why can't I do that? Why is anybody telling me I can't do that?
I think if
That's
it
my
got,
thing.
if it got out of control, then you can immediately reverse it. But I don't, and in the town I came from, there was a lot of stuff like this, where people were fearful of things that were never gonna happen for 50 years or maybe ever. And if it gets out of control, then you can start to pull back. But for the few people that may want to do it or restrict them, I don't think it's gonna be people popping up accessory dwelling units all over Brookfield. I just don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't think they're gonna pop up all over the place either, but it's the beginning of a trend that I don't think is effective for our tax base.
Oh, it'd help our tax base significantly.
Is that extra square footage?
Yeah, somebody's barn now gets outfitted as an apartment for their mom, then all of a sudden that gets taxed as a dwelling, not a, it goes from a $10,000 valuation to
It's not
$80,000.
always for mom, it could be for a son, daughter, wife, husband, and
Sure.
4 kids.
It could be, and I know you said 4 kids because that means dollars, right? But I mean, the alternative is that if somebody wants that, if Ed wants his family member to live there, he has to go through the expense of surveying his land, going to the planning board to subdivide,
Septic system.
putting in a new septic system, and a new well, and a new driveway, and you still end up with the family living there, right? It's just that now we've made Ed spend, $50,000 more than he ought to have had to, if he had been allowed to do it as an ADU, and we'd be in exactly the same situation.
And then it was brought up before, well, if I go and build this house with septic, everything, why can't I subdivide and sell it? I don't need it anymore. And if you get enough of them to go around, and as the demographics change, a new set of people could be in this town with accessory dwellings and they want to subdivide and sell houses. It's just,
See, we keep leading ourselves into doing things because of what if.
It's not keeping with the agricultural and historic
I don't know if that,
attributes of the town.
I think a family used their land how they wanted to, and if they had a son or a daughter who was gonna help them run the farm, and they wanted to be in their own house, they just built a house.
Where are they?
That's a story.
Where the controls come in are the sizes, and that's what, that, as you'll see when you look at this, that's how you get to limit the, in fact, our current zoning limits square footage. And so what we have for suggestions for discussion points go back to the new regulations, minimums and maximums and so forth. But you can't just build a whole new structure. It has to be, it's not, they're not gonna be, you know, two large independent living facilities. That's not what an accessory dwelling unit is. It's supposed to be small, accessory, it's
What
not.
was the size? Just
Currently?
to recall. Currently it's 700 or less accessories. There's no limit on size, is it, because it's attached?
The current, our current zoning says the floor area shall not exceed 1,000 square feet or 40% of the total combined habitable area of a single-family residence and the ADU, whichever is smaller.
That's today, that's what we have
That's
today.
current, right. And ADU shall not be less than 350 square feet of heated habitable area. There shall be no more than one occupant per 250 square feet of habitable area. Both of those we suggest changes to. The town, the state, the new law says that you can't make it less than 750 square feet.
You can't make it less than 750?
Can't make the maximum less than 750?
May establish, shall not be less than 750 square feet and shall not exceed, oh, sorry, that's our language. Not less than 750 square feet.
What exactly is not less than 750?
The ADU.
Detached.
Our regulation, the state law says our regulation can't say that an ADU, can't set a maximum size in the ADU that's less than 750? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I'll go back and check that.
Do you understand what I'm asking though? I mean, that 750 has to, the state put regulations on our zoning, right? That was the point of the legislation? I thought.
It's, well, I mean, I don't know if it was I don't know what their motivations were.
This isn't fair to
Okay, so
Diane,
here's
because-
the-
We're just discussing it.
Here's
on the agenda.
I know it's on the agenda, but like other things on the
You're the
agenda,
chair.
we're not 100% prepared tonight.
You're the chairman. We have
Okay,
30
may I
pages.
just read this one thing?
Right.
A municipality may also establish minimum and maximum sizes for an accessory dwelling unit, provided that size may not be restricted to less than 750 square feet.
Restricted to less than.
That's the minimum. That's what I heard,
That's the minimum
square footage.
that we can restrict it. We could write in our zoning that ADUs can't be larger than 750 feet.
That's the,
Rob,
that's.
closing statement. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, your objection was, what if somebody starts subdividing around ADUs? If we're concerned about that, I think that's easy to take care of by saying that you can't do a subdivision where an ADU is on a separate lot from the main house. Right, just put a restriction either in the subdivision regulations or in the zoning or both that say, just, you can't do that.
You can't sub off an ADU.
Right,
Okay.
or something like that, right? I mean, I think we can, that's a reasonable objection to have, and I think that we could deal with that.
My thought is doing something stupid for people in the future.
Yeah.
So if we can work our way around with that, that's fine. We got a fail-safe or something that's gonna protect people's interests in the future, it's okay.
Because those are
I
valid
don't
questions.
care what you build on your lot. I really don't. Or
You just
yours.
said you did.
As long as it's not
I don't
your,
care. What I care about is what happens to it. Once it's built, it's built. And what happens in the future?
What you're saying is very valid, because this is
Okay.
what some people from the public will have concerns of, that we have to listen to and take into consideration. So I think it was a good.
If it's clear up front,
review.
if you're building an ADU, it's not gonna be sold, subbed off and sold as a separate residence.
That's one possibility.
you brought up tiny houses before, you know, maybe
I
that's
was
where,
gonna leave-
that's where the tiny houses come
I
in.
was gonna leave that off it's
All
not
right,
on the
what-
agenda. It's
Do
not
you
on
wanna
the
keep
agenda.
talking about ADUs and drop this, or do you wanna start on this?
Did anybody get to read this? Do you realize that
I read
the next
every word.
session of the,
Okay, ADU discussion is over. Review compiling the
I mean-
changes to the New Hampshire planning and land use regulation book. You wanna start us off then?
it's real easy. I set it up this way.
You have this
Of course
one?
you have.
Phil? Yep. Thanks.
What I did is I went through all the changes in both books, that the 2014, 2015 book, and I got the 2015, 2016 book. And then I looked at the changes, and I just put it in this format because I found it very confusing to know what they've added and what the legislature took out, what they repealed, what they amended, what they enacted. Because I was struck by some of the things that they enacted was on a consent calendar, which means down in the legislature, it was just went on a calendar, and because the committee it came from said it was ought to pass, it just passes by a voice vote. So no one got to debate it. Planning boards around the state didn't even really know that it passed because it was in committee. So I just thought it was important that we yearly go through all the changes, and once you keep up on it, it actually goes pretty quick. It looks, it looks very time consuming to do it, but it's really easy. And you'll see that on the first page, page 1 of 38, it has the 2014, 2015, and then it shows a bold statement, and then it shows in 2015, 2016 what the change was. So basically, it's very easy. On page 1, they repealed the Water Council as established in RSA 21-0:7. So it's really simple, and just go to the next one. So they just repealed that. Under,
I assume we don't care that the water council was repealed?
well, we can care about it, we can discuss each one, but it's repealed.
Well, the water council's in action in Worcester County, fighting over water from Quabbin Reservoir.
So if you,
Stage 3 drought.
Because they repealed it.
That's right.
So it's the legislature's fault. Okay.
and,
Jump to number 3, page 3 of the.
I'm on page 2. Page 2, really simple. The powers and duties of towns, it's about record storage and management. They basically just simply added or other storage media formats such as electronic records. That's all they amended it.
Do we support, do we let anyone store stuff with us? What does that even mean?
I'm still waiting for them to work the bugs out of these computer things.
Because many people
No,
have
it's-
electronic records, and there was
Yeah.
nothing in the,
Yeah.
But if I were a nonprofit, I could store stuff in there?
No.
You wouldn't let me?
No.
Okay.
okay, on page 3, 52:3-A, they amended it, and they've amended, of course means added, and amended section 3, that no town or city shall levy any fee or collect any tax for the use by any utility of roads maintained by a village district under RSA 52:1. Now, we don't have a village district, am I correct?
But we were in town.
Any town or city shall levy a fee or collect any tax on.
Right, but because we don't have a village district.
We were in town.
So Ed, on this one, you didn't highlight Roman numeral 2 above that, where you have bold, and it doesn't appear up above.
That was my question.
Okay, I was trying to save space.
You meant to, though. If you look at this, 2 looks like 2's an ad. Right?
Oh, maybe it's because it's also referring to a village district, which we don't have. The last clause in that first sentence under number 2 is by a village district,
Ah,
and so it's not applicable.
But it's not, you're not making that judgment for us, are you?
No, I think next time I was trying to keep everything on one page, so I think what happens is next time I would rather put the entire passage in there, so.
That's okay.
So as we're reviewing this, it's a good idea to see if this is the best format, so I'll definitely make sure that the entire passage, because some of the passages can be quite large, I'll just have to double the page up.
I think it's a good format so far.
So do I. I think, I understand, which maybe it should be highlighted, but it's clear what you want to do.
Okay.
Can always use smaller font.
I could, but I can barely see it as it is, so that.
Just kidding.
Okay, 52-A:1, this was enacted, and basically this enacted chapter 52-A and added special assessment districts and added the definition authority all the way down, so 52-A:1 to 52-A:12, so it added that to the plan.
I missed that. This is all new? This is like a new chapter?
Yes, it's been enacted, 52-A:1.
In,
By voice vote.
Under Title III, Towns, Cities, Village Districts, and Unincorporated Places. So they added special assessment districts.
do you know what that means?
I have no idea.
There's one over in Copple Crown. In Durham, there's the Copple Crown District,
Yeah,
where they have their own assessments and fees to maintain roads and waters
okay,
and
okay.
So there's 3 pages in our book, if you want to go read it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I didn't take the time.
So we do not have this.
we don't, but surrounding towns do.
But we could have it.
We could.
We could.
I don't know how you get
So
one.
the spirit of this thing
Well,
is to find changes that pertain to us, right?
The Stone Road.
No, I
District.
put all the
Oh, yeah.
changes
I
in,
know
but
you
I
did.
just want us to know that it exists, so, you know, for instance, if there's somebody new coming in to visit the planning board to see if they want to be a planning member, this kind of helps also yearly go through to figure out what's in our planning book. I didn't want to leave anything out, I figured we'd need to just understand it, because I've learned a heck of a lot just by reading. The next one, page 5, is an amendment to 53-F:1, and it adds 2-A, eligible property. So under energy efficiency and clean energy districts, it adds eligible property means real property located within the boundaries of the district, whether zoned or used for residential, commercial, industrial, or other uses, excluding residential property containing less than 5 dwelling units. And it also repealed V.
V below, V in 2014, 2015.
Yeah, down at the bottom of the page,
yeah.
that's what the language that was taken out.
Exactly, so then I put the language so you knew what.
That's the V you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, this change looks like, between the two of them, it looks like they just took that Roman numeral 5 and made it into a definition.
Yes, I was hoping somebody was going to say. Correct. Yes, if I say V or Roman numeral and I say VII or something, you can correct me and install the number in there for the public to know that. Okay, for 53-F:2, it was amended.
But there were no differences.
There was no differences, and I have to call Office of Energy and Planning up, because there are several things in the book that are wrong. And that's why I had to put amended generally, because it was very difficult to figure it out. So I actually went through the entire thing line by line and found they added just basic simple words like under 53-F:4 agreements with property owners, they added, as you can tell, an eligible property, they added this, and they added C.
Oh yeah, our footnotes here in the book say for 2015, F3 was amended generally, which is exactly what you wrote. It's like, it's not very helpful.
Right, it's just.
And it's a full column, I mean, it's a big chunk of text.
Exactly, so, you know, I actually wish the Office of Energy and Planning, since they made the books up, maybe they could do this for all the towns, because they already have the information, it would be easy for them to do that.
This is a riot with the book.
Yeah, and send out, I don't see why they couldn't do it, it should be simple. I don't think it should take legislation to do it, but maybe I could just ask them. Maybe I'm just too idealistic. Maybe it needs legislation.
Well,
I mean, that would save a
I
lot of.
feel legislation is needed for things a lot less important.
I mean, that would be an administrative rule making legislative thing, and it would pass very easily, most likely with a voice vote, and they would just be forced to do it.
Do it.
And 53F5 and 6 have also been amended generally on page 7 of 8, again adding eligible property, same thing. Page 8, 53F7 amended, it deleted former paragraph 2, redesignated paragraph as paragraph 3. See, I would also like the Office of Energy and Planning to give little descriptions of the changes.
I'll tell you where I'm having trouble with following this. When I get back on page 8 or 7 or whatever, we're not talking, what is this RSA talking about? What's the high level topic?
Energy efficiency and clean energy districts.
If you go back, this was a long one. If you go back to the beginning, so it's page 5 through page 8. This is the whole 53. I'm sorry, it actually continues 9, and it continues to 9.
So right here I see 53F, energy efficiency and clean energy districts. And whenever I see a 53, we're talking about that. Whenever I see a 53F, we're talking about that.
That's right, 53F.
Okay, thank you.
So it continues on.
Yes.
F6, F7, all the way to F8.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my head wrapped around why we have a state law that creates a concept of a clean energy district.
I believe it's for being able to apply for grants.
Okay, but it's crazy that you'd have to have a whole district where clean energy is special. It's wacky.
I think all ADUs should be allowed in the clean energy district.
They're mentioning here Energy Star standards. It's all to encourage, you know, energy efficiency and clean energy districts. That's really what it is.
Why not just encourage that everywhere or step out of the way and don't encourage it anywhere? Just let,
Yeah, clean
Markets do it.
energy state.
yeah,
Did you say markets?
I'm sorry. Dirty word.
Okay, so this goes all the way through to page 9, so go to page 10.
Here's one that matters.
This is amended. This is a 91A3. And 91A is the right to know law. And what they did is they added many parts to it. effective January 1st, 2016, they add, like when you go into a non-public session, you have to say, as a chairman, you have to say, can I have a motion to go into non-public session per RSA 91A3, and then whatever exemption that you want to use to go into non-public, you would have to pull from the RSA. That just tells the public that you're only authorized to go into non-public with these exceptions.
So how do I read it?
So you've
You state
added,
that.
they've added E.
Effective until January 1st of this year. The first bold line on page 10. Effective until.
Does it say until on that book?
I'm trying to find it.
I'm trying to understand what it's trying to say.
No, I understand your question. It sounds like it's saying it's only until January 1st. It sounds like it should say effective
A3.
January 1st. That's,
That would start,
That's what it
that would
makes
start
sense.
with, help me understand. And then I don't understand what he says, I have to keep reading it.
meaning you would go 91A3E, which is you're going into non-public because you're considering or negotiating pending claims or litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed against the public body or any subdivision thereof or
Oh,
against
we-
any member.
We had that before, so they added to that,
Correct.
they added to that.
Exactly.
Well, the book's right at the beginning of this section, on page 95, 91-A:3, non-public sessions, and then in brackets, effective until January 1st, 2016. This whole piece is,
Oh, and so I've got 91A:3 repeated twice in the book. Once is effective until January 1st, 2016, and the other is effective January 1st, 2016. So,
So we want to see the new one, this is what's coming out, we want to read what's coming in.
and we want to know what changed.
well, oddly enough, E didn't change, apparently. Looks like the same language.
Well, the footnote says for 2E, it inserted by, the words by or twice in the first sentence of 2E. So like where it says filed by or against the public body, whereas before it said filed against. So it's threatened in writing, litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed against the public body, and now it reads filed by or against the public body. So if the planning board wants to sue somebody, we're covered by that, as well as if we're being sued. So that change sort of makes sense to me.
Okay. It also adds G. That's an exemption for consideration of security-related issues bearing on the immediate safety of security of personnel or inmates at the county correctional facilities by county correctional superintendents or their designees. It also added K. Consideration by school board of entering into a student or pupil tuition contract. That goes into school board. And under section 3, it adds developed by local or state safety officials. So section 3 would read minutes of meetings in non-public session shall be kept and the record of all actions shall be promptly made available to the public. Except as provided in this section, minutes and decisions reached in public session shall be publicly disclosed. That's the same as it usually was, 2/3 member. So it's just adding or state.
No, is it 3 that So what changed here is that the recorded vote has to be to seal. Is this where it's to seal? I'm sorry, is this the one where they're sealing the minutes, or are we not there yet? Because I think that it used to be the case that the vote to seal the minutes didn't have to be in public. And now I think if I read correctly somewhere, it does have to be in public now.
I'll read it like that.
So, it used to read, minutes and decisions reached in non-public session shall be publicly disclosed within 72 hours of the meeting, unless by recorded vote of 2/3 of the members present is determined that blah, blah, blah. And now, it reads, by a recorded vote of 2/3 of the members present taken in public session, it is determined that the vote is right. So the vote to seal has to be in public session. Remember how
Yes,
when you
I do.
when you were trying to figure out whether the minutes were sealed or not, you couldn't know because they could have done it in non-public. You couldn't get the non-public minutes because they were sealed, maybe, right?
Well, the lawsuit with the county, they agreed to, for now on, say in public that they have sealed the minutes.
Right, but now they're
They're
required to take the vote
Yeah,
in public. It has to be a motion in the public meeting.
exactly. So what the county was forced to do with a lawsuit, now everyone has to do.
No, you said that they had to say in public whether they sealed them or not.
No, that they have to come out, they have to vote to come out of non-public, and then while they're in public, they have to vote
They have to take
in
a
public.
Take a motion and vote in public.
And that's so the public can access to see if the non-public minutes were sealed by 2/3 vote in the public minutes.
Right. So you made that part of the law, that's good. You guys need to know that, you guys do
We
non-public.
do that, no, we don't, we do it this way.
Right, no, but you do non-public meetings.
Yes, we do,
So-
so we take the vote in public.
Yeah.
And that's so you don't have to go into your non-public meeting minutes and
To see if they
to
were-
see if they were sealed or not. That way you're sealing them. Sealed should mean sealed. That's what we tried to make our point. Is it sealed? You're not supposed to look at it. Or you shouldn't, go into it. Page 12, 38, 155-A:10. They amended the public and safety and welfare section and added, what's VII?
So,
7. Members of the board shall receive mileage at the rate established in the United States Internal Revenue Code and regulations when attending meetings of the board for the round trip distance from their residence to the location of the board meeting.
Now, I would assume that says board, but I would assume that would be all employees. Would that be somewhere else in the RSAs? Because we're talking land use changes, so you're working this way.
Yes.
that language is specific to State Building Code Review Board.
Board, yeah, that's not.
It's not a general.
So I'm asking whether we have to check all the other RSAs to see if other boards or employees, what rate they get.
Yes, you do.
So I
Do
asked.
you get an update on those RSAs that?
We don't get, what you're doing here, we don't see for the rest of the book.
Continue on.
That has to be talked about. Okay, this is 162, on page 13, 162-C:12. This has been enacted. So this is something that was brand new and voted on in session with a voice vote. So what they did is they created a commission to develop a land conservation plan for the state.
What was repealed?
Nothing.
I don't vote RSAC, repealed 19. It looks like they repealed the number perhaps and then added, like, just enacted a whole new section or rewrote the whole thing.
That's really odd.
I mean, I think that's how they do it, instead of, you can't, I don't know why I would think you would repeal something and then give it a new number, but it looks like they repealed it and kept the old number.
Okay, this is gonna sound wacky, just looking at their little history note here. It says for this, what is it, 162C:12, 2015, 174:1, which I think refers to something with the legislature, some section where you guys publish your results of your votes, I think. Effective June 26, 2015, repealed by 2015, 174:2, effective December 31st, 2016. So I think that the way I interpret this is that the commission to develop a land conservation plan only exists from June 26th until December 31st. By the action of the 2015 legislature.
Why do you say it only lasts until December 31st?
Because you've repealed it effective December 31st, 2016. I'm sorry, so it was June 26, 2015 through December 31st, 2016, so a year and a half. So I think that, and it sort of makes sense because it's commissioned to develop a plan.
So it shouldn't be indefinite.
Yeah, you put a timer on it, right? They gave him 18 months. You gave him 18 months.
Yeah, so this book is the 2015-2016 edition, and at the end of that section, as Rob pointed out, it says in 2015 it was effective June 26th, and then it was repealed to be effective December 31st, so that is no longer a valid section, but it's in here because it was
December
active.
31st, 2016. I didn't notice it.
Sorry.
So it's till the
We
end of
haven't
this
done
year.
16 yet.
Yeah,
It feels like we are.
got a couple months left, and then it'll be gone. Good thing we reviewed it just in time for it to be done.
So it dies, that whole language dies at the end of this calendar year.
I'm very interested to find out what they came up with, because I know there's other boards that, there's other commissions that were formed, and I don't think anybody ever goes and checks to see if they actually made a report.
Well, they have until September 15th. They have, that's today.
So the commission shall report its findings and any recommendations for proposed legislation to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate, the House Clerk, the Senate Clerk, the Governor, the Chairperson of the House Resources, Recreation, and Development Committee, the Chairperson of the House Finance Committee, the Chairperson of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, the Chairperson of the Senate Finance Committee, and the State Library on or before September 15th. That's 2016. That's today. So you should be able to go talk to one of them and get a copy of the report.
62-K:9.
Okay, page 15, it's public safety and welfare. It changes the chapter 162-K. It amends or adds that any modification shall maintain use of dedicated tax increments for retirement bonds and notes as required. Municipal economic development and revitalization districts. We don't have that. Do we have an economic development?
We don't even have an economy yet.
We don't have a zone yet. But that's-
So can we safely say that the next several pages that relate to this chapter 162N is not applicable?
It doesn't look like Economic revitalization zone tax credits.
No.
Okay, so that's right through
Tax credits.
page
Planning board
21.
wants to propose one.
Well, what's that say, a full-time job means a job is at least 35 hours, it's not 40 anymore?
Only for that area, you know,
Under this chapter,
Under this
economic
chapter.
revitalization zone tax credits.
just those jobs.
Was this something that the original planning commission put in place? Tax credits, so it's all the way.
Okay, so page 20, are we on page 22 yet?
I'm on page 22 now.
Okay. 482-A:3 has been amended, and it's the Title L, Water Management and Protection. It's about filling and dredging in wetlands, which we have. Section 2B, it adds the section, the governor and council shall consider the request for a permit transmitted by the department. The governor and council may approve as transmitted or deny the submitted request following action by the governor and council. The request shall be returned to the department for permitting if approved or filling if denied. How could that affect us? So the request for permit transmitted by the department.
Well, that section just is talking about what the procedure, a procedure for how a permit gets processed.
For excavating and dredging. That's A3, is excavating and dredging permits, certain exceptions.
It's wetlands, it's all at the state level, correct?
Yeah, that section starts with, no person shall excavate, remove, fill, dredge, or construct any structures in or on any bank, flat, marsh, or swamp in and adjacent to any waters of the state without a permit from the department. So it's all about, you can't do nothing without the state saying you can do something.
It also adds expedited permit under B on page 24, top.
Still under the state, it's not Brookfield.
Yeah. And 25, it adds, the commissioner shall adopt rules pursuant to RSA 541-A establishing a permit by notification process for certain minimum impact projects.
So that actually could affect, maybe not the planning board, but somebody in town. If they want to do a small project, they have to have a way to do it.
It also adds, and those that may be conducted without a permit if the project is registered with the department. And the other question I have is, these changes, how are we going to flag if any of these items are going to affect what we already have? Like, what's going to be the process that we go in to make sure that what we have in our ordinances don't need to be changed? What
Well, we read here what's changed.
But just off the top of our head, we're gonna, is there another way we could do it more accurately?
That's probably the only sure way to do it, because we're the only ones who know our zoning. But in the past, when there have been changes that affect everybody, town and city has had articles on it, and things like that, so.
But if there's no process, we're just hoping somebody's gonna do it? I'm just trying to
Yes.
think of what's, so this review, we're just gonna review it. Like when it says here, establishing a permit by notification process for certain minimum impact projects.
That's a state process. We don't require that in our zoning, the state does. It's a state process. Our zoning says 75 feet setback from water, period.
So there's nothing, we would never have to look at this.
We have to look at it to know that we're okay with that we understand that what changed doesn't affect the planning board's work. So, but we don't know that until we look at it.
I just bring it up.
Right, I mean, I think that we need to go through this process so that, and hopefully one of us, if there is something that's gonna affect us, one of us will catch it.
On page 26, it's 482-A:33 has been amended, and that's the title of it is Water Management and Protection. And again, it's the fill and dredge and wetlands. It says under changes in the report section, it says the department shall submit a annual report 60 days after the close of each odd number fiscal year.
DES has to, not us.
674 is getting close to us.
That's a weird thing to say, that you have to do an annual report every 2 years. So,
No, I didn't,
Is that-
I
is
didn't,
that-
I
is-
didn't write that wrong. That is what the book says.
you double checked it because it was so weird?
They re-
Or are you asking me?
I'm asking.
Repealed biannual.
I'm still in A3, I need A33, 482, A33.
Biennial report, 60 days after the close. It's not, it should say biennial.
It should
not
say
annual.
biennial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got that wrong.
So it was a crazy thing, that was a little weird.
I just did that to see if you're paying attention. Again, page 27, water management and protection under chapter 483, New Hampshire River Management and Protection Program. And they repealed, the board shall elect annually from its membership a chairperson and vice chairperson. And B, the board shall hold 2 or more meetings each year. At any meeting, a majority shall construe a quorum. So they repealed that. Now, on page 28, did I get this right again, saying annual report required? And this is chapter 485, the New Hampshire Safe Drinking Water Act. Don't we have a public water supply protection program over here? There's a sign,
There is some, there's
water protection,
There's public wells in town for Wakefield.
but there's a sign on the road here, and it says water protection area. So
I haven't
does
seen it.
Brookfield have?
No.
We charge for that water about
We've looked at it every way we can, I'm sure.
as much as
We've
the
looked at it.
landfill cost.
We've looked at it many different ways.
Yeah.
Wait, so they have,
Wells here, but they use the water over there.
Wakefield.
and what's the assessed value of those wells?
We've pursued it, I'm sure Dianne could tell us. It's not even the building is assessed, it's just the land, it's not very much.
We have to assess the buildings and everything under.
Not per the RSA. And they pay a fee in lieu of taxes because you can't tax another entity. We've been up and down this one.
Can't tax another elected entity? or just
Another
entity?
entity.
Why are we letting them take our water?
Hey, it's good water.
No kidding.
Yeah, but why are we letting them take it?
Doesn't Poland Spring, I think it's Poland Spring, takes water out of the ground.
From
Yes.
Poland.
Yes.
Now, don't they have to, do they have to pay anything extra for taking the
No,
water?
I own the property.
No,
Wakefield owns the property?
I guess they do. We don't own the property.
Could we put a bottling plant there and sell them bottled water?
Our zoning doesn't support that.
Maybe it should.
Go ahead, move on.
What about the pipes? How do they get it?
They get his pipes underground.
Pipes.
Across their land?
Don't know, might be. They're right on the town line, down here.
Do you tax on those pipes?
Tax everything we can tax. But we can't tax the pipes, it's in lieu of taxes. We have to write a letter, an assessment.
So write them a really big letter.
We have tried.
Okay, so on
Really?
page 28, 485:3-D, repealed 2015, 259:31, effective, this is confusing to me. The reason why I bring it up is because I know we have a public water supply protection program.
Who?
I don't think we do.
I don't
Well,
know.
what does that sign mean? That's
What
down the road.
sign?
You mean on 109?
Yeah, and it says water protection area,
Where?
water protection area, almost near the well.
Oh,
You
interesting.
never see that.
Oh, it's down in
It
the
could
dip.
be, which town is it in, my friend? That's right by the line.
Well, my friend, it's in Brookfield.
It's in Brookfield, yeah, I've seen it too.
Okay.
I just bring it up
But
because it's saying that we have, that
So
we're
is that
supposed-
pertinent to Salt and Route 109?
Yeah, it might, I think that's what it is.
It doesn't say
because
use, it doesn't say low salt area, it says water
I don't
protection
think New Hampshire
area.
uses that phrase.
No?
I don't think so. They've had to replace wells all along 109.
Okay,
It's a
well,
state route,
Yeah. State sign.
state sand and salt.
I've annotated here that section 485:3D was repealed. Does that mean we don't have to, that if we had one, we don't have to do an annual report again? Is that what that says?
Evidently. It's gone. We didn't do it before. We don't have to worry about it now.
Okay, so just want to make sure that I have it right, so we know
Well,
where.
we'll go look for the sign. I'll look for it, sign. We got a sign.
674.
Page 29, he's talking about
Yeah,
public
page-
water supply.
Yeah, page 29 is public water supplies, and it basically says that you have, it's about the backflow devices.
We don't have any
Okay,
public water supplies.
not applicable.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If we're supplying Wakefield with
If
water,
we are not supplying Wakefield with water. They own the property, they are digging, they're pumping their own water. We're not supplying.
how does another town
You're exporting it.
own property in our town?
It's a water district that owns that property. It is not the town.
Oh, it's a water district with an elected body, and it's separate from the town. So it's almost like a separate entity owns it.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Because we send the letter to the water district, not to the town.
And they own the building, the pump thing that's on it. Do they have a generator on
I don't know. Is there a limit to how much water they can pump out of our town?
Out of their well?
No.
No.
You limited?
that? The reason why I brought it up is because do they have to have a backflow device on the pumps that they take out of our water reservoir that's under the ground?
That's what this says. It says that this is of interest to them. It's the way I read it was every user.
But I think that Ed is asking the question of,
Is
if
our-
they screw up,
Yes. Are we protected?
and they start sucking stuff back down into their well holes, into
I understand what
our
you're saying.
aquifer.
Yeah, does this mean that the backflow device is at the house?
Yes, I think
Or
that's
at
what,
the pump spot?
I
That's
think,
my
I
question.
think 48511 is about the end user at the house.
It's a residential property. Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah, because what happens if, somebody, no,
I understand.
I'm just
Yeah.
talking.
Focus on
Okay.
opportunities.
Okay, that's it, just got it. Awesome. So, 8 pages light, it's really quick.
Better too?
And so once a year we do this. Water pollution and waste disposal. They amended 485A, colon 4, which is, they added a biennial report by November 1st of each year. What's so funny?
To report every 1 year.
You have a year left. And
That's
you just-
exactly what it says, so
copy the-
that's not a
you copy
typo.
the- That's right, you copy the wrong year.
Report. Well, I have to tell them what I have, okay, I have to tell
I believe it.
them. No, they get paid too much money.
It's easy to do.
Okay, so.
That's interesting.
I also have to ask about this mistake too. The book states the amendment.
Now you get
Rewrote
to-
paragraph.
and then you get into land use stuff. Sludge.
Sewage disposal systems, we don't have any. Planning and zoning. This amends 674-1. The chapter is local land use planning and regulatory powers.
We're getting more power.
And it adds civic organizations, educational organizations, professional organizations, research organizations, and other organizations. And to consult with citizens, and this is in reference to the master plan.
So we can make recommendations to the school budget, to the school committee.
Sure.
It's in our slot now.
Make recommendations. Sure.
It says, "It shall be a part of the planning board's duties, it shall be,
Yeah,
to consult and advise public officials, agencies, public utility companies." So it's our duty to consult and advise them.
so when they don't respond, is there any recourse?
I guess I'm reading this over and over again because I'm trying to
Well,
think, what is it really
it-
telling us to do here?
It's telling us to, if you read the last part of that, for the purposes of protecting or carrying out the master plan, as well as for making recommendations relating to the development of the municipality. So we can't just go tell the school board to spend less money unless it's for those purposes.
Sure.
So when we rewrite our master plan, we have to put something in there so that school budget.
So we write the master plan that we don't have any more money for the school district.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I still don't know what they're asking us to do.
We're just supposed to consult with everybody about the master plan.
It says shall, does that mean we have to notify them, and how do you do that?
If we saw, basically, if we saw somebody, if we saw I don't know, a research organization that was doing something that was contrary to our master plan, before we couldn't do anything. Now, we have a responsibility to consult with them and tell them to stop doing whatever they're doing.
Before, we could only consult with public officials, agencies, and public utilities. Now they added the rest of it.
Okay, now, an example would be, you have,
Homeschool organization.
think of another organization. What about a professional organization? Do we have to involve SRPC with our master plan? Is that what it's saying?
If SRPC, I think what it's saying is that
Professional
if SRPC, well, they're
They're
an
not,
agency.
yeah, they're not any of those things.
But,
Um,
but let's say they're lobbying whoever they, the Association of Counties or whatever, New Hampshire Association of Counties, right, that would be, it's not,
it's another organization maybe.
UNH, educational organization.
Sure, so let's say UNH Extension was pushing something that was contrary to our master plan. We could go and say, hey, you really shouldn't do that, because, people actually want things to be different here.
But that's not what this says. It says it shall be
Sure it
the
does.
part of our board to consult with these added organizations for the purpose of protecting or carrying out the master plan.
Consult and advise.
Consult and advise.
We could speak up.
And we could even go and ask them for help, right? We could say, hey, to help us make our master plan, bring our master plan to fruition, can you do X, Y, and Z?
Relating to the development of the municipality.
Why am I reading this to say that it's saying that we shall involve these organizations?
That's
Why?
right.
It does say that,
It does say that.
but only to the extent of protecting and carrying out the master plan.
It shall be part of our duties, whether we need to or
Carrying
not.
out. See, these words bother me a little bit only because carrying out, if the master plan's supposed to be an advisory document, why is it carrying out anything?
I think carrying out means implementing. Implementing the master plan.
Agreed.
It's an advisory document, it's really not supposed to do that.
Right.
I mean, am I wrong? Maybe I'm right. Wrong? What am I doing?
Supposed to be guidelines.
Yeah.
It's our document.
It sounds like it sounds like they're making the master plan not a guiding document, they're making it a regulatory document. Am I not reading that right?
I think that you're over-reading into it.
I often
do. I think that it's just advising us as, that our responsibilities encompass more than the entities that were there before relative to issues that related to the master plan or our zoning regulations. Is that a fair assessment? That's a broader statement, and I wouldn't read an awful lot into it. It's not changing anything. It's not changing how, I suppose it's in the law, so it does have an impact on the planning board. Now that we know, thanks to Ed's pointing this out, that we now have these additional entities that we consult and advise with.
That's a positive comment. That was positive.
So can I make the negative comment?
Well, I was gonna have a negative.
So I think that the other way to read this is that any of these kinds of organizations can now stick their nose in our business and say, you have to listen to us. You have to consult with us.
I understand them adding and to consult with citizens. It should actually say consult with the residents of the town that it involves in. But maybe a civic organization. So I could create a civic organization and you've got to consult with me and I have something to say about your master plan?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing
Yeah,
here.
input, that's all, it's an input.
But I don't know if a civic organization that has lobbyists and has outside forces influencing them should have anything to say with the property owners of a town.
The Stone Road Property Owners Association, they would like to have input to our master plan.
Now we have to listen to
That's
them.
under that's consult with citizens. I'm
No,
sorry,
it's
there's-
an organization.
That has lobbyists.
Okay, well, I've got to put legislation in and change that. I have to get clarification on that because I don't understand who put this in and why it was put in.
I'm sure it's the regional planning commissions.
Page 33.
Why are you laughing? I'm not being funny. I'm being serious.
Wait,
That's
they
why it's
add-
funny.
Wait a minute, they added 2B, which is upon request, advise the governing body as to whether proposed ordinances and bylaws regarding the maintenance and operation of stormwater systems are consistent with the master plan.
Okay.
We've got drained swales.
Well, that kind of makes sense.
If the governing body wants to be briefed, they'll
Yeah.
ask.
Well, that makes sense. I like that, but I don't.
That's you guys, right?
That's
Select.
right. If we want to know, we'll ask.
You don't know. You don't know what we think.
We want the facts.
See, the reason I'm stuck on this
We go
chapter.
back?
Well, I'm just stuck on this chapter for just a second, because This is what planning boards across the state are not keeping track of. They're not keeping track of, and I don't think it says it in here. Does it say it in the book, what legislation or bill actually added it?
No, it wouldn't say that, I don't think.
We'll see that.
It would have a reference to where it was, the bill, the vote, the final vote was published, or where when the governor signed it was published, or whatever, right?
But it doesn't tell you what, see, this is what happens. Let me tell you about a process that I observed down in the Capitol. You have, for instance, you may have a civic organization that's a statewide civic organization who has hired lobbyists to go out and create legislation for itself. It gets inserted into the RSAs by a voice vote, and planning boards never get to see this. And this went to a committee, and it was passed, but no planning board in the state got to put, any effort into testifying against it or for it. Do you understand what I mean?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the notes of decision to answer a question that you had brought up. It actually, I think that, sorry,
I'm not.
I wasn't listening.
That's fine. There's 38 pages of a lot of stuff here.
But in answer to your question that you asked earlier, I think that I think there's a hint here. It says notes to decisions, and then it cites a whole bunch of different court decisions. But in the absence of special grants of authority, the general function of a planning board was to prepare a master plan for development of the municipality and to investigate, advise, and recommend with respect to municipal planning. And then it cites a case from 1963 decided under prior law. And then there's other citations. So I suspect that this change that you were upset about
It was due to a court
was
case.
probably an outgrowth of a court case.
And while you were reading that and researched that, I was explaining that what some of these organizations do is they have legislative, like New Hampshire Municipal Center, Municipal Association and such. They have lobbying organizations that come in and write legislation, and they put it in, it goes into committee, it passes, and no planning board knew about it. And then it gets passed by a voice vote, and nobody reviews it. And I don't understand how that can happen that way, without anybody knowing, and I don't.
Well,
So
there is a way to know about that. That is to belong to the organization that pays the lobbyists so that you have the information that they have.
Hmm.
And that's why I suggested that before, that as much as, you don't like, there seems to be a sentiment to not pay, like, for memberships, but that's the way that you get the information. When I looked into it, yeah, I could have belonged, had I joined the New Hampshire Planners Association, I would have had access to all of that information.
Well, I would think that legislation should be formed to have that information be transmitted ahead of,
In an
ahead of it, so.
ideal world, yeah, but there's how many bills get filed every cycle?
About 1,200.
Okay.
1,200.
And tracking all of that stuff, like you said, they get slipped through on voice vote without even you knowing that they're gone through.
So on this particular change in 2A, Roman numeral 2A, there's a note that says the 2015 amendment substituted, quote, civic organizations, educational organizations, professional organizations, research organizations, end quote, for, quote, civic, educational, professional, research, end quote. So I think it used to read public utility companies, civic, educational, professional, research, and other organizations. I think they just changed the wording to put the word organization in there a bunch of times. I don't think this actually changed.
What was
Oh, I see.
anything meaningful.
They just added civic, educational, professional, research.
You know, it already had just sort of, it was civic, educational, professional, research, and other organizations. And they just put organization on each one of those, civic organizations instead of just civic, right? So
Okay.
I don't think that that one was a big change.
Not as big as it looks, huh?
Well, you don't know that until you look at it, though. So I think we need to, I think this is a useful process, but I think that one is not really a substantive change. I don't think our duties change significantly.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm gonna look at that. Okay, 6 and 4, colon 21, local land use planning regulatory powers. And this is under innovative land use controls. And it added C, phase development, which means a development usually for large-scale projects in which construction of public or private improvements proceeds in stages on a schedule over a period of years established in the subdivision or site plan approval by the planning board. In a phase development, the issuance of building permits in each phase is solely dependent on the completion of the prior phase and satisfaction of other conditions in the schedule approved by the planning board. Phase development does not include a general limit on the issuance of building permits or the granting of subdivision or site plan approval in the municipality, which may be accomplished only by a growth management ordinance under RSA 674:22 or a temporary moratorium or limitation under RSA 674:23. So,
Well, we're prepared for that one, huh?
Yeah.
Next group is commercial fishing, saltwater communities.
Is it true that we don't have innovative land use controls in our town?
I don't think we ever had to use them.
Well,
I don't think we have them in our zoning.
I don't think we know
we
either.
used to have some language that said innovative land use, and it was related to the funnel development. But I know we changed a bunch of stuff there, I just don't know whether, I'll have to read more about that. I don't know what that is, but 665.
Yeah, so yeah, there is an innovative land use control, and they just added that one section, which is if we have phased development.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we,
Would a large scale, would it be like a bridge or anything?
No, it's a big subdivision or a shopping center.
Is this the right citation? I can't find C in the book. Under 674-21, or colon 21.
You guys better step on it, we're not gonna extend this meeting because
Get into commercial fishing.
Hanson Brook,
Page 34.
Gill nets in Hanson Brook.
Could be. Coming down off Mountain Pond, maybe.
Maybe there's shellfish in Mountain Pond.
We put that bridge in, what we're gonna do is set it up to support fishing.
That's right, we have to have decks on there.
Okay, so while you're looking at that, page 34, page 35, it was enacted, and we don't have any traditional commercial or recreational fishing.
I can't make sense of that, so I'm giving up. It's too late.
The next one, page 36 is also the fishing protection. There's fishing, administrative enforcement procedures, last page.
38.
Under section 1, it adds the applicant and the planning board. This is about subdivision plats, site plans. The applicant may request the planning board choose a different third-party consultant, and the request may include the name of a preferred consultant. The planning board shall exercise reasonable discretion to determine whether the request is warranted. When would we use this?
If we're doing, if there's an application, we can require engineering stuff to be done. And so I guess this can affect that.
Yes, in fact, Ossipee just used this recently to deal with the campground. that's going in, they ask the applicant may request the planning board choose a different consultant.
Sure, if the applicant
I think we
isn't
can,
familiar, or doesn't want the third party that the planning board chooses, they can request
They
another
can
one.
request another,
yeah, because I think the process is that we can hire an engineer and charge it to the applicant.
but now they have an extra,
There's a way for them to, if they're not happy with our engineer, there's a way for them to get something more fair.
it seems time consuming, but if you think about this, if one meeting a year or a half of a meeting is done once a year, you'll actually remember this.
Right.
It'll come to you. And if there's something that really stands out, you know, we could, but I wanted to put this in the rules of procedure somehow, so when we're not here anymore, people still know they have to go through it. So we're not caught, because if, you know, somebody's gonna be reading it, and if, in the future, if we don't keep track of this stuff, and our ordinances are not kept up to date, the planning board doesn't enforce it the right way, then somebody's gonna catch it.
Let's put this on the calendar, so we're doing this in the springtime when that new book comes out.
Yeah. One added thing, is I wanted to make sure
Do
that.
you have to find all these, or do they give them to you?
Find what?
Changes.
This-
All the changes?
These changes are in the book,
Right.
and I just went through and compared each book.
So
Each
you
change.
prepared the packet that goes with the changes?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, wow.
But once you do it, believe it or not, it doesn't take that, once you get a system going, and you understand how the book's set up, but if I could get OEP to do this through the whole state, I think that would be really helpful.
I think that has to be done.
Yeah.
That's the only way to have continuity, because everyone's gonna be doing it, they'll be getting a book and a list of changes. That should probably be an appendix in the book anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot of work.
It was, it was the rules of procedure, there was something else I was gonna add to this. Oh, I wanted to make sure that as planning boards of this, of the towns in the state have enough time, when someone puts legislation in, proposed legislation, we know about it, so we can testify or for or against, and then the public could somehow be notified that there's gonna be a change. What happens if they don't agree with it?
But isn't that process good for all organizations?
All
If
organizations.
there's going to be a bill that's going to impact a different, the police department, shouldn't they know that? If it's good for the planning board, it should be good for all various organizations that might be impacted by legislation, not just
I agree, but I'm thinking,
I
how
know
do we
you-
do with the planning board? How do we make sure that we're able to?
Hire a lobbyist.
We're concentrating on land use.
I
How do we
understand, but
make
he
sure?
wants to fix.
Okay, for instance, right now, as an incumbent, I can put in legislation now to affect this, now. Somebody's gonna put in more, after election, people are gonna struggle to put 1,400 probably this year, more bills in. Some of them are gonna affect land use, and they're gonna be put in. It's that window when it's a legislative service request, before it's given a number,
Well, why don't you put a bill in?
that, you don't need a bill. You
That's-
just need a mechanism to get those land use changes that are going to go into committee. That has to go out. Now, I know
So
there's,
you add it to OEPs or that, you know, legislative.
don't we get a bulletin from somebody?
Not that I've seen.
What's Plan Link then? Isn't that a bulletin? Why doesn't Plan Link let out all
Just an
all
email.
legislation that's gonna come down the pike in Plan Link? So all the planning boards see what's coming up. I don't think they do that.
I don't think so either. I think that you just need to tap into the people that are, that are monitoring, being paid to monitor that stuff.
What, somebody must be putting the calendar together for the subcommittee. These are the things we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Why couldn't that calendar and a brief description be sent to the various planning boards?
What you're saying is what Diane is saying, is that
No, she's saying hire the lobbyist.
Other organizations do
Didn't say
this
hire a lobbyist.
for the planning,
Just tap
they do
into
this
that
for
information.
themselves, they're not doing it for the planning board.
As a legislature, why don't you put that process in place? Submit a bill that it's gonna be done, or whatever you, however you do it, however you implement that change.
Add something, yeah, you add a section to OEP, or whoever is gonna be responsible for it, that says that here's another one of their duties, is that, you know,
Share the calendar, share something with us so we know what's going
All
on.
land use goes through a committee, I believe it's
Okay,
municipal and county government.
and whoever coordinates that activity in calendar should distribute a brief overview of all those bills.
And do you know who I think should do that? Your elected state representative should do that.
All right,
Your elected state representative
I
should.
think that's you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about, they should, but we have to somehow figure out.
thank
how
you,
to
Ed,
make it
stop
do it.
talking. Public comments?
I love it.
You have any comment? Yeah, 1 minute. Make it quick, because he'll knock you off.
Member comments regarding the town of Brookfield. Threatening implementation,
I got
Can we put on the next agenda?
meeting adjourned.
Oh,